Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am the Secretary of Sundarbans House, Anshuman Basil, here with our guest for the day, Smriti. Um, she is an industry leader in the field of data science. She is currently head of artificial intelligence at Earthbank in Sweden. And thank you so much to Yash for introducing her to us, and also Madhuganda for putting it all together. Let's begin. Smriti.
Hi Anshuman. Thank you for facilitating the event. So I'm hoping the session to be extremely interactive. Please let me know if you can't hear me properly because I have some internet issues today. So yeah, basically, hopefully we'll spend the next 60 minutes together discussing about AI and data science and machine learning. So during this session, I will begin with some fundamentals of AI and data science, and then we'll do a little more, like a little analytical experiment. And then I'll discuss the roadmap to data science and AI, the current state of artificial intelligence. If anyone's interested in masters in artificial intelligence and data science further, then we can discuss that as well. How to locate jobs in this domain and how to maybe leverage LinkedIn to find a perfect job opportunity or internship. Also, how to be visible, how to be a part of speaking events, how to be more involved with community learning and why it's so important. And if someone's interested, I can share a bit about some projects that I have personally worked on. And of course, we'll have a Q&A. So that's what I thought for today. Now, as I said, I'm hoping the session to be extremely interactive. So anytime, you can unmute yourself and answer whatever I ask. So maybe a quick introduction of myself first. I'm Smriti, as you know by now. I'm currently the head of artificial intelligence at Earthbank, where I work on deep learning, computer vision, and certain image processing techniques to measure the amount of carbon sequestered in biodiversity. I'm also director at AI for Diversity, which is the world's largest nonprofit initiative which engages and educates diverse communities within artificial intelligence. I also have some experience working as a data scientist on a medical case to save some Swiss government's money. Also worked as an AI researcher in computational neuroscience at KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm. And I last month was a mentor at Google's Women Developer Academy. And as a person, I love traveling, shooting, like completely into guns, skydiving, and I want to learn pottery someday. So on that note, we'll start the discussion and I'll start sharing my screen. So let me know when that's visible. Yep, you should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, awesome. So the first thing, what comes to your mind when you hear the words artificial intelligence? Anyone feel free to unmute yourself and answer or write in the chat anything. So yeah, like what do you think artificial intelligence is in its simplest form, or maybe some example that you think of right away when you think of artificial intelligence?
I think everyone's introduction to artificial intelligence is really sci-fi movies, and just like seeing this crazy computer that can do everything in a doomsday scenario, and like brings death to all of humanity. But then I think as I've come to read more about it, there's narrow AI and there's general AI. So narrow AI is like in a specific domain, it knows what to do, like AlphaGo and like Deep Blue, where they can play against the world's best chess players and beat them. I think general AI, we are far from that. That's like what they show in the sci-fi movies. I don't know if it will even happen or not, but yeah.
So yeah, so that's very true. I think that's how I got into artificial intelligence, and because of the game of chess, because I don't really like losing and computers always beat me in chess. So I was like, what is this magic? I need to know. But yeah, in simplest words, artificial intelligence is basically a system or a machine which is trying to mimic human behavior in some way or the other. So artificial intelligence is basically trying to make the user experience similar to interacting with a human. And that's what it does at the core. And in this case, the human part, the human experience part is the output, and input is a lot of data, like huge amounts of data. That's what allows AI to learn and adapt further. It takes reams of information of data, processes it. If it encounters a problem, it learns from the situation, recognizes a pattern, and then does the same task again. So, like the iteration. So, yeah, so that said, what do you think is the difference between artificial intelligence and human intelligence? Like, obviously, there are a lot of differences when you think of the way it works, the way it makes a decision, the rate, the pace, immersions, a lot of things. So, what do you think is the difference?
Um, I think, and I have nieces, and I'm seeing them grow up right now. And I'm just seeing how each year, like since they're very young, you grow a lot in your first few years. So I'm seeing how versatile they're, like the human brain is, and how quickly they're grasping different concepts in different domains, and how they're able to do all of these different activities, even though the hardware is there is one hardware. It's not like tailor stitched to many different activities like we do in like narrow AI. But yeah, I think just that's like the human will be able to cook, play chess, lots of different things. Whereas I think right now where we are in AI, it's
assume
able to do a
AX, Y आपने
specific thing.
एक X का order लिखो.
I think Utkarsh wants to say something. Go ahead.
Sorry. No.
Go ahead,
Also,
Utkarsh.
AI decisions are supposed to be non-biased, but human intelligence is due to emotional behavior, it is biased in some way. We haven't reached that point that AI makes totally non-biased decision, but it is supposed to be, according to me, what I.
Absolutely, they're really amazing points, and I think um, I think it's a very, very interesting point that you've made about, like the emotion part. Like, that's probably something that I was also going to say when you talk about decision making. AI is supposed to be more objective in the choice making because it analyzes based on data that's been fed to it. Now, obviously, there will be bias in data. There's a lot of reasons for that. That's another discussion. But when it comes to how human beings they make decisions, their choices are often affected by more subjective components, which are not just based on some statistics or figures or data in general. Then the next thing that comes to my mind is the pace and rate. So when compared to like human people, AI can deal with a lot of data at a lot more faster rate, whereas in terms of speed, human beings kind of cannot be there for obvious reasons. When it comes to versatility, also, artificial intelligence can perform less assignments at the same time as a framework can, as basically it were to learn, like several duties at a time. Whereas when it comes to human beings, the judgment skills, it underpins multitasking. So that's a couple of differences. So next, I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of machine learning and deep learning. So do you guys want to share something about it? Like, what do you think of machine learning, deep learning? What's the difference? What's the similarity? Yeah, please go ahead.
I think people learn machine learning first and then deep learning. But since I am Nassim Taleb is one of my heroes, so he recommended Ian Goodfellow's book on deep learning. I think it's considered like the gold standard. So I understand deep learning. I've been reading it very passionately for like the past few weeks. So you create many different levels of abstractions where one form of data becomes another form of data, which becomes another form of data, which allows it to make decisions. Because let's say, for example, we put a picture up and we ask the AI to identify if there is a car or a truck or a human. Each pixel is just like a set of numbers which shows you how many colors there are. So an AI or even a human being cannot do anything with that. So that that colors, they change those into gradients. From the gradients, they find out edges. And from the edges, they try to make out, okay, if this is like a certain shape, it's a human being. And if it's like a certain color and shape, it's actually a car. So many and he explained it like by saying that when you do division, you do it in the Hindu Arab numbers, and if you try to do it in the Roman numbers, it would be very tough. If you try to divide 50 by 10 in Roman numbers, it would be like, it would take you a lot of time. It would be impossible. And so what you're doing over there is also abstraction. You're thinking of the number 50 and 10, and you're changing its abstraction to 50 and 10 in the Hindu Arab numbers, and you're able to divide easier. So I think that's what happens in deep learning. That's at least what I am right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a very good explanation. And I also learned deep learning before getting into machine learning, because I started with computational neuroscience. So that was all recurrent neural networks. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, although I do not recommend people to do it, but still. So yeah, Aryaman, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Yeah, machine learning is something when machine tries to learn from the behavior of human. So firstly, it works with the human, it studies the behavior of human, and then it works like the behavior of human, and it transform it working how human mind work, and how human or other interactions work, and thereafter it mind the decisions.
Absolutely.
So basically, just machine learns that how human work and how human think.
Absolutely. That's exactly correct. So basically, when it comes to machine learning, it is a system of algorithms which receives some inputs, produces some outputs, and it checks the outputs and adjusts the system's original algorithms to produce better outputs. There's no learning happening at all in machine learning. So yeah, exactly. That's what you said as well. So now there are different types of machine learning algorithms. Like supervised, unsupervised reinforcement, which I think you guys are aware of already. So yeah, like I think we've already covered this as well, like what's the difference between machine learning and deep learning in general. So this is sort of the taxonomy when it comes to artificial intelligence. So you have like this entire big bucket of AI, and machine learning is a subset, and then comes like a more brain-inspired learning, which is in blue. And there are different categories in that as well. So you have neural network, and another subset of that is deep learning, which we discussed earlier. And then there's spiking neural networks, the SNNs, which are the most brain-inspired neural networks, which I worked on when I was working on computational neuroscience. Extremely complex. You need to understand how brain works, like hippocampus, amygdala, like what produces what inside the human brain to work on it. So yeah, next, I wanted to, okay, we can discuss this. Like, what do you think is the correlation between data science and artificial intelligence in general? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think data science is about collecting data, clearing it up, and making it tell a story. And I think for AI, data science is like a prerequisite. You need to be able to get data, clean it, transform it, manipulate it, and then you can train your AI. You can train your neural network to be able to do things that we wanted to do. So I think they like I think for AI, data science is like a prerequisite. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So definitely, like you need to know data science when it comes to if you want to work on artificial intelligence. So this is how the overlap happens, right? Like as Anshuman mentioned, when you work on data science, you work with, like it can involve collecting data, whatever, like a huge life cycle. Sometimes you need to do the work of a data analyst also if you're working on data science. So like collecting data, cleaning it. And after that, in order to make sense of the data, you implement some machine learning, some deep learning algorithms, or some other artificial intelligence techniques in order to, like get some insights out of the data that you want. Now it's likewise the other way also. If you are working with machine learning, deep learning, AI, you need to, know how to use data, how to make sense out of the data, how if you are presented with like a huge amount of data. So in one of my recent data science projects, I was working on basically to see the red flags in operations, like in shoulder arthroplasty operations. So I was working with some senior MDs in Switzerland, and the motive of the project was to make sure who should be operated on and who should not, so that like the money is not wasted on operations in which there's a higher chance that successful results won't be we won't yield successful results. So there I received this data, and it had like 3,000 rows and maybe like 6,000 columns of the data. And we wanted to use minimal data sets. So we just wanted to work with like less than 15 features in that case. And once I finished data cleaning, like there were categorical columns like smoker, non-smoker, diabetic, non-diabetic, and sometimes the answer there was B out of 0 or 1. So, and there's this huge issue that you can't really assume if someone's a smoker or non-smoker based on any other information out there. So you have to remove it. So after removing all of that, I was left with like 600 columns, 600 rows of data. Like initially it was like 3,600 or something. So you know how bad data you get. So basically, if you are working on a machine learning AI application, as Anshuman mentioned, it's sort of a prerequisite also to know how to deal with data, which is more of the data science applications. So now I wanted to share a quick experiment with you. So yeah, by the way, I'm the Rick and Morty fan, so you'll see a lot of Rick and Morty in the next slides, maybe. So yeah, so choose a problem, any problem that you would like to work on, anything that fascinates you. Do not think about artificial intelligence right now, just a problem statement. For example, I want to work to reduce plastics in the ocean. So take a minute and think about something, and you can unmute yourself and share it here, or you can write it in the chat, or you can just think about it, anything you're comfortable with.
So I was reading upon save soil removal. So use and take 1,000 to grow. So that
Is it my
I think her connection isn't good. I'll just text her. I'll ask her to write it in the chat, whatever she's trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a meeting before this and I could not see anything, could not hear like 80% of it. So I'm like, my internet is bad today.
No, not really. Yours is fine.
That's good. So does anyone else want to share their problem statement in the meantime? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to. There are a bunch of things that I'm really fascinated by. One is like health and nutrition, and I love the studies that show that what's the incremental benefit of like lifting like twice the weight that you're lifting on your bones, and then also all kinds of like the benefits of fasting and so like and then also like lots of studies on compounds like curcumin, which is like haldi in India. And I think lately a lot of Western medicine is like doing a lot of research on these Ayurvedic compounds, like extracting curcumin out of turmeric, and just like doing studies on their benefits. So I would like to do like a deep down on the Athar Ved and see what all actually works and what doesn't, and so we can actually have it as a part of modern medicine. So yeah, that's something I'll be interested in.
That's a very interesting problem and something like, that I haven't heard people think about so much. So it has a very nice niche to it. So it's really amazing. So yeah, Ariman, what would be the problem you are interested in?
So I want to work in organizing the unorganized sector of our country, that is agricultural sector. From the very beginning, our country has seen many organizations in every sectors of our economy, but the agricultural sector is yet not been organized. And I want to work on that so that the agricultural sector would organize and people would increase their income, shift the population, and make them asset. So on that problem statement, I would like to work further.
That's very interesting. I actually finished writing an application for agriculture, like using Industry 4.0, remote sensing AI in agriculture, for improving like economic development in Sweden yesterday. So, so that's definitely interesting. It has a lot of like job opportunities, a lot of development towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals also. So it's very interesting. Madhugandha, what would be the problem you are interested in?
Yeah, so recently I was looking upon the Safe Soil movement and the rate on which the soil is degrading and how it could be a real big problem in the coming 50 years. So yeah, maybe that is something I would like to work with.
That's definitely very interesting. Again, a little bit related to agriculture, very important. The depletion in soil, and like the changes in moisture in the soil, the amount of carbon that's been sequestered, modeling. So that's very interesting. Not a lot of data is available on that, but yeah, like I had worked with some people who work with Manreka. So they collected a lot of information on soil. There were some scientists working with IASC earlier. Now they work with C-STEP. So if you're actually very interested in this, then I can put you in touch with them. And yes, very nice lady. So yeah, they have some data that India has on soil. So she's the author of that. So yeah, Ryan, what would be the problem you're interested in?
The problem that I would like to solve is related to organ transplant. That is, the thing is, for like 15 to 20 years, the average life of organ transplant is stagnated. So a lot of research is going on, but there's no improvement related to that. It's around 15 years to 20 years. So would like to work on that. And the second part is, maybe considering you worked on medical problems, so a person has to take immunosuppressant for life. So that is a problem, considering a lot of cost is involved. So maybe a solution where a patient does not need to take immunosuppressant for life. I mean, I know it's a very complicated thing, and it's going on for a very, very long time. And related to, I mean, they have been planning like xenotransplant. I think, if I'm not wrong, it was done in the US. Pig's heart was used in a patient for transplantation, but the patient did not survive for more than 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened pretty recently.
Yes.
Yeah, very recent.
But the pigs part have been used for some time, but on a very small scale. I mean, not the entire organ.
Yeah, like just
The valve, and yes.
So that's a very interesting problem. Like, again, like healthcare is something that I think got me interested in artificial intelligence. So it's something that's always very close to me, and there's a lot of improvement that can always be done when you think of healthcare. Like there's always some change, some improvements that we can do using technology, using artificial intelligence. The other thing is, when you're thinking of healthcare, it's extremely important to work more on like governance and ethics and consider those aspects also. But yeah, it's a very interesting problem. So next, now when you have a problem, I always recommend thinking if the problem has computational side to it. A computational problem is basically a problem that can be solved using an algorithm. So computational problems can be different. It can be a decision problem, a search problem, optimization, or counting. So if we look at the problem that I chose earlier, which was oceans and plastics and ocean, we very clearly have, like this thing of separating plastic from other objects, which is classification, and also getting the quantity of plastic that is being separated. So also some sort of quantification happening there. So this step is extremely crucial as it will help you understand the nature of your input and expected output in general. So yeah, so the problems that you have taken, like take a minute and think about if it has a computational aspect or not.
So for my problem, like you mentioned, there is a certain amount of data available, and maybe we can find out what steps could be taken or what fertilizers we shouldn't use anymore that will cause more harm. Such kind of analysis would really help in further decisions making, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Anshuman.
Yeah. So a few things. So in my problem, I was talking about Indian herbs and roots and the compounds present in them. So there's a hereditary colon cancer in my family. Okay, so everyone around the age of 50 or 40 gets it. The person who got it the earliest was 35. So I've been really interested in colon cancer research, and I've been studying a lot about it. And so there were a few studies by some Indian doctors in the US about the benefits of curcumin on the polyp. It first grows as a polyp, then like 5 years, 6 years later, it becomes like cancerous. So like if the person takes curcumin or haldi, the polyp actually goes away, and in a very short time, like 10 days. So if you are on a regular, if you have regular intake of curcumin, the polyps actually go away. Haldi, and then also onions. And then there are a few other studies. There's one study, I think, in the gym community these days, people are taking ashwagandha as a supplement because it's really helping out with muscle growth and all. And then also in general, a lot of these compounds, their benefits are just lowering in inflammation in the body. So inflammation in the body is something that can be measured, and you can instantly see. So there is a computational side to it. You can see how much difference it has, what's the mean, or depending on how much you're taking, what's the maximum you should take or minimum you should take, and then also the standard deviation between them. And I think, yeah, so these problems do have a computational side to them.
Exactly. So yeah, it very clearly has like some quantification and also optimization side to it. So that's interesting. Ariman.
So in my problem, the data can be used as there are so many types of products in agriculture we produce, and its demand is not so huge, but its supply is very huge. People used to produce it in a very large quantities, but there are some products which can be produced agriculturally, and their demand is very high and their produce is very low. So by understanding the data and using algorithm, we can predict that which commodities need to be produced and in which type of terrain, which type of atmosphere, and which type of ecosystem. And by using that information, we can increase the income of farmers. So that way we can use algorithms.
Yeah. So this also very clearly has a computational side. So now when you know that your your problem has a computational side, the next thing to understand is if the computational side, it follows some known logic. This essentially means that we do a theoretical analysis of what we have. Here we'll take a look at the factors that we need to consider in order to solve our problem. So if we look at the ocean plastic problem, for example, that I selected earlier, I would think of what information I would require to analyze plastic in the ocean. I'll need satellite images, for example. I'll need some underwater images that I can get the required information from, like whatever I need to analyze. So what do you need in order to, do your computational analysis, basically?
So, for computational analysis, the data must be there. And if we want to work on data by logic, what do you mean? Some certain algorithms are we talking about, or something else?
So basically what I mean is, in order to, you need to do like a more theoretical analysis before diving into deep learning or machine learning. So the first thing would be to understand what data you would need and why would you need it, right? So if I maybe need to use for the ocean plastic problem, if I probably need to use satellite images, what information can I get out of that? Like, why am I using that? So that's what it basically means to understand if it is following a particular, like, a known logic already, like, or is it something that you have to basically like work from scratch. Like, it's pretty obvious that I use satellite images to like see where the plastic is, underwater images to see like to distinguish plastic from sea objects. So yeah, does that make sense? Like, is it clear now?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, so you can take your time and think about it later as well. This would need a little bit of research also. So so once have done everything, like all of these steps, which require some brainstorming, some like mapping it out, flow chart, anything like documentation a little. So after this is when you can think of what techniques to use. Like, if you wanna maybe work on object detection or image processing or computer vision, or maybe more sophisticated algorithms like CNNs. So before like working into, or before starting to use machine learning, or like starting, if you have a problem statement in mind and you directly think of like, I can use convolutional neural networks for this. So it's not always the best. Like, it's important to invest some time on the problem itself, to think about it from a more human perspective before you start to work on it from like a more artificial intelligence, data science, ML perspective. So yeah, so next I thought we could discuss the roadmap to data science and AI. So now you can see a lot of things here. If you Google the skills needed to become a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, AI engineer, there's so many prerequisites. It'll show up like foundations of computer science, math, statistics, programming, deep learning, pipelines, everything that you ever think of. So basically, I'll try to simplify a little and discuss the strata here. So yeah, so this is sort of like a pyramid that is a very good visualization. I can share the source with you later. So let's analyze this pyramid, and we'll start from the bottom and we'll walk our way up. So the first thing you see is programming. As a data scientist, you need programming expertise in at least one language. I personally work in Python because it's, like, it is good. It's easy. You have some good libraries. It makes my job a lot easier, and I'm not a programming wizard in general. So, it is basically good to know common data structures, logic, having an understanding of how basic algorithms work, and how to work with external libraries in general. SQL is extremely important. Like, scripting comes very handy, because SQL is what will help you get the data usually. And if there's no data to begin with, there cannot be any analysis further. Other thing that I recommend everyone to have at least a basic knowledge is Git and using GitHub, because it'll always work in teams. Next, what we see is data collection and wrangling, the cleaning part. This is so important. I already gave an example. Often the data you receive will not really be in a usable condition. So data cleaning helps you identify and remove errors and duplicate data in order to create a more reliable data set that you can further work on. This improves the quality of your training data and analytics and enables more accurate decision making in general. This is an extremely crucial step if you're working with machine learning or data science. So the next thing you see is the storytelling, right? The exploratory data analysis, EDA. business acumen, and storytelling. So this is where you work on making sense out of the data that's been provided to you. So drawing insights from the data, then communicating the same with management in simple terms, people who do not understand what data analysis is. So you're gonna speak in like complete English, no data science AI jargon there, and visualizations. So this is the core responsibility usually of someone who's working more with data analysis. So also communication plays a very important role here. Next you see is applied data scientists, applied statistics and mathematics. So like statistical methods, they are sort of the key or a central part of data science. Almost all data science interviews predominantly focus on, descriptive and inferential statistics. So it's nice to have a clear understanding of the underlying statistical and mathematical methods that explain the working of these algorithms before you start coding and, like before you start diving deeper into machine learning algorithms. You don't necessarily need to be a mathematical wizard for this, but it's good to understand what's happening behind the scene, like the magic that happens. And once you're done with all of this is when comes the machine learning AI part. This is when you can jump into the fancy machine learning, deep learning algorithms. And yeah, so this would sort of be a pyramid. Does anyone have a question? Any questions around this?
It's very interesting how common usage and complexity have like a perfect inverse relationship. It's not necessary that they should, right?
It's not necessarily necessary, but yeah, it usually is. And like for me, I started working directly with deep learning, and it was very difficult in the beginning, but yeah, it is usually how it works in the industry. It is how usually the pay also is. So
Yeah, I think it reminds me of this old adage that complexity is the enemy of execution. So I think what gets done more is is what's not complex, and what's complex gets done by
yeah,
very few.
exactly. I mean, you need to start with extracting data. It may be a very complex task, but it is where it all starts, and it is what gets done first. That's why it's more common. That's why it's considered less complex in general. So it is exactly what you're saying. So yeah. So what do you think is the best approach to, like if someone's interested in a job in this domain, or what do you think interviewers look for when they're hiring machine learning or deep learning, hiring for MLDL roles?
So they'll basically see that how anyone tries to think about a problem or he used to tackle a problem. So they will see that how will they draw algorithms and flowcharts and how they see a problem and how they interpret that problem. So if they see that someone is interpreting the problem very well, so they'll them.
Yeah, exactly. That's very important. Most cases, it's you have a discussion round where you're presented with a case, and like you would probably be speaking with future colleagues or potential colleagues, and yeah. So I was once in an interview, and we discussed a problem of soap making. Like there are different batches in which the soaps were being made, and one batch took like 10 minutes and the second batch used to take 12 minutes, which is essentially a huge difference. So how do we actually, like debug that, or how do we solve that issue and communicate with the management, with the stakeholders? Also, how would you, like communicate with your management when you do not know much about what the result is going to be? Like you cannot make false promises there. You cannot go and tell them that, hey, we'll produce everything in 9 minutes, because you don't know that yet. So how do you communicate with the people, and what the approach is, basically? So essentially, it's all like, some different, like 5 different types of machine learning problems or 6 different types of machine learning problems And that's the same thing that's happening everywhere. Either it's predictive maintenance, or it's like prediction, or it's like something like churn. So I honestly do not see a huge difference in a basic non-commercial application of predictive maintenance of vehicles, or when you look at it more from a healthcare perspective. It's when you add the commercial aspect of governance and ethics and understanding more of how that model is going to affect the end user is when you see the difference. So it's extremely important to understand that, like, who is your end user going to be, and for what purpose they're going to use the solution that you're working on. So basically, I see a lot of opportunity for artificial intelligence and data science for both new developers and for employees in general. But of course, there's some problem. There's a lot of competition in this field also. So sometimes graduates don't really have a good amount of solid information about the field, and it's hard to get some relevant experience at times, because most times people aren't really ready to take a risk on someone who hasn't been working in the field. So like sometimes it's difficult to actually understand how it is to work in the field. Yeah, so what I was discussing was that as a college student, it can sometimes be hard to get a good chance, and it's also extremely difficult for employers to find people with relevant experience most times. So some things that I think are good to build a portfolio or to stand out a bit is that you start with experience. So now this is the classic chicken and egg problem. So let's be honest, no one is going to hire someone who has never done anything relevant before, or who doesn't have a relevant experience. So if you want to like work for a company that does machine learning, it's hard to get experience there. But if that's not an option, then it helps if you get that experience from some other place. So some things that I personally worked on were some projects on my GitHub. So I think I was crazy about GitHub for a while, like 4 or 5 months in my life. I think I was on GitHub, and then I had to basically, like stop it, and I had a serious withdrawal after that. But yeah, so I would recommend working on personal projects and putting your ML projects on your GitHub. The first thing a recruiter would look at is your CV, and then most times, if it's a more coding related job, then they're also interested in your GitHub profile. Now, it might be a little difficult to choose what project you want to work on. So it doesn't really have to be something very flashy or something very new. I recommend doing something, you know, um, that shows that you know what you're talking about, and like something that you're actually interested in, and something that people always like look into your GitHub or your profile is to see your coding standards. Like if you can like write neat codes, and if you understand what you're like trying to code in general. So some things that I always keep in mind while working on a GitHub project is that it must take less than a month to finish the project. More than that, it's absolutely a waste of time. If you want to build a portfolio, if it's something innovative, definitely go ahead. But if it's something just to show credibility, then like spending that amount of time is enough. Make sure that the code is clean, modular, well written before you publish it. Also, the code should always come with a README file or some other documentation about the technology that's been used. And if you have used any tutorials to learn or some sort of inspiration, it's always really nice to give credits for that as well. So next is for someone who's more interested in competitive coding, then hackathons are really amazing. I haven't participated in one, but I was a judge in one last year, and we saw some really amazing projects, some really amazing people there. So hackathons are interesting because you go out and you build something, and you meet more experienced people there, and you can put it on your CV or portfolio. And try to find more AI specific hackathons if you're interested in, but you can also get a lot of like general software hackathons and you can, like try and make projects with an AI twist there. Also, something that I personally have worked a lot with other than GitHub is, like working on open source projects or open source contribution in general. So this was honestly the closest to real world experience that you can get, unless you get a job where as an ML developer, it's probably the closest to getting that sort of experience. An open source project, it gives you a real look at a code that is used in the real world, and it will teach you a lot of important skills, um, like how to debug, how to work with other people, how to write, like how to, like write a code, how to work on other sort of dependencies. So it gives a lot of other skills and a lot of other information like that. And yeah, so I think that's all I wanted to discuss. And other than that, some things, it's extremely important to, know how you would like to approach someone. Like every single job or every single project that I got, except after my bachelor thesis at KTH was through LinkedIn. I'll just turn the lights on in a second and be right back. But I can speak in the meantime. So yeah, so everything I personally got is through LinkedIn, and it was all of it was more like a cold approach. So I was like, hey, this is Smriti, and this is what I'm interested in, and I see that you're working on XYZ, and I'm very, like maybe a question on what the person is doing, or if I can't think of a question, if I'm not that smart at that moment, I would write a comment on, hey, so you use this, like maybe if it's a project on sustainability, then I'm extremely passionate about sustainability. I come from a place where, it's highly valued and I grew up with these values, is something, whatever comes to your mind. But it's important that the messages, if it's on LinkedIn, for example, or on email, it's important to keep in mind that it's not more than one scroll, I think, because other than that, it looks like a lot for the other person to read. And yeah, like it's extremely important that like it looks like it's written for that person and might be a generic message, but it's important to tailor it for that person. And it's also important to leave them in a position where it's up to them. Sometimes I receive messages like, Smriti ma'am, I need a job. And I'm like, so like, what do you want me to do? You want me to go to your LinkedIn, see what skills you are good at, find people who are doing that, hiring that, recommend them to you, sometimes even write interviews. So yeah, it's important that you leave the other person in control. The way I end a cold message is that if you're interested, I would love to pass on my CV, or if you know someone who's hiring for this particular role, it would be amazing if you can put me in touch with them. So if it's like an absolute first message that you're sending, but it's, if you have some time, I would recommend, having some conversations back and forth, building some sort of connection, and then approaching them for something. But I'm usually impatient and I just approach with whatever I want. So this other job, like the job at Earthbank, how I got that was that I was like, hey, I see that you're working on this. Your accuracy is this much. If you work with me, we'll make sure that it's more than this much. And yeah, so that's how I got my interview. And that was on a Saturday at like midnight. So sometimes I get lucky. But it's extremely important to like know how to communicate, and people are often very interested in collaborations when it comes to artificial intelligence, data science. People need people to work with them. Especially if it's a niche, like what you guys have discussed here, all of the projects were a niche, and there are very few people who are actually very seriously working on that. And also, if anyone's interested, I was on a panel discussion with Scott. He works in the office of CTO in Google, and they have a lot of like voluntary roles, voluntary projects. So if anyone's interested, then I can pass on his email to forward, like, if anyone's, like, is interested in working on some voluntary work with them. So they're working a lot with Google and Stanford, and like women in data science and some other projects that they have right now. The other thing is that is extremely important. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but what is extremely important is to document what you're doing. And I learned this late, but if you work in technology, you learn like 5 different things every day. And the next day you wake up, you remember like half of it. So, and then the following day, you do not remember anything at all. So it's important to document what you have learned. It can be in any way. Like if you're someone who likes writing, it could be a blog. If you're someone who likes, like making videos, it could be on YouTube or LinkedIn or anything. But it's important to do it because it's like you can go back and learn it the same way you do, and sometimes you can make some money out of it. You can get some, if someone else is in a similar problem, they can refer to you, and that helps in a lot of ways. That helps with visibility, that helps with like you can commercialize it, you can mentor people. So yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities related to that as well. So yeah, I would like to maybe answer some questions and then I can leave after that. Yeah.
Smriti ma'am, I need a job. Yeah. So I wanted to ask. You mentioned like the importance of soft skills and networking, and then also always putting up whatever you're doing. And yeah, that's I feel is very important. So like coming to like technical skills, like let's say I want to intern with someone who's in your connection. So what are like the most in demand hard skills that are required for those? So I think like maybe like we've all done basic Python over here. So what on top of it do we need to? I think a lot more, but please let us know. Yeah, what all do we need?
So like definitely Python, as you already said, and then like working understanding of, like, if it's just an internship or a voluntary position, then probably not. But if it's like like a more incentivized role, then a working understanding or a life cycle understanding of the project, like data science and or machine learning, like what would you do when like starting from getting the data until deploying it is important. If it's not a research role, especially if it's like maybe if it's maybe a startup, then you would need to know a lot more. But I think it's really nice to work in startups because you understand so much more. Like I learned marketing because I was working in a startup for the past 1.5 years. So yeah, so when it comes to technical skills, it's, yeah, I mean, you can go as long as, as the list can be as wide as possible. But a couple of important things would be, right now, cloud is extremely important because everyone is either working on AWS or Azure, or some people on GCP, but it's mostly AWS or Azure in most companies. So I would recommend, like knowing cloud. Git is extremely important. You would work in a team always, so either GitHub, GitLab. So knowing Git is crucial. And, like having a basic understanding of data storage in general and data pipelines, that's good. You can always get help around that, but it's nice if you know that because you'll have to eventually learn it anyway. So, and SQL is extremely important to anyone who's in data science. So I think these would probably be some skills that's, required to start with. Like I was interviewing with some company, like a huge company recently, and I knew that that was not the role I was interested in or I would be best at. But it was a fun interview because they asked me so many questions which I had no idea about. And I'm like staring at them and I'm like, I don't know. And then so I started speaking about things that I did, and I'm like, it's not that I'm gonna get the job. At least let's make sure that they don't think I'm stupid. so so yeah, so they were telling me about how they had to sort of pause what they were doing and start working more on cloud, understanding cloud. So as someone who's like entering right now, there's a lot of like good certifications on AWS available. So it's extremely nice to, like focus some time into that. And data structures, do not ever, underestimate the value of that. I had forgotten everything from data structures when I was speaking to them. And I was like, oh, I should have done some research. But yeah, so I had recently accepted another offer and I was like, nah, I'm not interested in this right now. But it's always fun to, and I would recommend doing like taking interviews, like, it gives a good practice. Even if you're not very actively looking for a job or internship, make sure you, keep doing interviews. It tells a lot about how bad you need to update yourself. So yeah, I was in Himalayas for 2 weeks and I came back and everything in the world was different.
I think a lot of people who come out of the Himalayas say the same thing.
Yeah, I was there for 3 weeks. I went to Spiti. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so data science, like especially in India, like I have not done any interviews in India ever, because I went for my bachelor thesis to Sweden and I stayed there. But I have friends who have been like, doing a lot of interviews here. So they ask a lot of data science DSA questions. They ask a lot of data structures questions in these um, interviews in general. And there would be some coding exercises. It also depends on what company you're applying to. Like if it's like a very technical company, if someone's interested in, like not, basically, yeah, it depends on the type of role that you're interested in. It also depends on how, if you're maybe applying for Apple or Google or Amazon. Like Amazon, it's mostly data structures questions that they ask. So it depends on a lot of those things also.
Can you tell us about your journey, about how you got to Sweden, and then also about remote jobs and how to land them?
Yeah, absolutely. So how I went to Sweden, I was allergic to sun and obsessed with Northern Lights and the Nobel Prize. In short, so basically, I was working with this nano satellite. I did my engineering from PES University in Bangalore. So when I was in my second year, PES was working on sort of this all-student nano satellite TESSAT with ISRO. So I got an internship there, and I was working on detumbling. So once you launch the satellite, it's like super, you need to stabilize it. So there I worked on C++, and I worked on detumbling of the satellite. And I did my internship, and like 4 months later, for some reason, my mind was like, you need to meet your, the lady who was leading our internship. She was a scientist at the space department of my college. So for some reason, my mind was like, you need to meet her, like completely a very weird gut feeling. So I go and see her and she's like, are you interested in writing a paper on the work you did during your internship? And I'm like, sure. So we write a paper, we submit it to International Astronautical Federation, and that year it was done in Bremen in Germany, so north of Germany. So it got accepted, the abstract, and then we worked a lot on the paper. And I was the only person who went to present the paper because the other guy who was an author, he had recently gotten a master's in Canada, so he shifted to Toronto for that. So I went solo to Germany, and I had recently turned 18, so they did not need any consent from anyone else for my visa. So I was very happy. And so yeah, so that's how it happened. And then I was dating this guy at ETH Zurich at that point. So I went to meet him, and I attended a deep learning lecture with him, with this professor Ander Konukoglu. Actually, he is from IIT Madras, that guy who I was dating. So yeah, so that's how I came into, or that's how I understood what deep learning was in the beginning, and that's how I started with deep learning personally myself also. So he was studying computational biology and biotechnology at ETH Zurich. So that's how I started working a little bit with deep learning and machine learning. And then I wrote to the same professor for my bachelor thesis, but ETH Zurich at that point could not accept people for bachelor thesis outside European Union. And then I did a lot of research, and I always wanted to go to Sweden. So I wrote to like a lot of professors, cold emails. I wrote like 48 cold emails, and I got 3 offers. One was from Texas, Dallas, and we are still in touch, that professor and I, but I never went there. And then this one at KTH, and then there was the other one at Karlsruhe in Germany. So that's actually how I got the offer. So I wrote that I actually have a very weird YouTube video on this on my channel. But yeah, so I wrote that I'm interested in like quick introduction of myself, and I'm interested in this, and I like the work that you've been doing. And I read like 4 of his research papers, and I quoted what he's been doing and why I'm actually interested in that. And yeah, I attached my CV, and that's how I got interviews. And after like, not exactly interviews, more like discussions. So I had like a couple of discussions with him to understand what project I would be good at, if I would be good in at a project that they have right now. So all of that, and that's how I went there. And once I was there, it was easy. After my bachelor thesis was over, I told him that I still want to continue the project, and I got my offer extended for 10 more months. So I was there, and sorry, WhatsApp is on. And oh yeah, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, so it's fine. And after that, after that, I applied for masters. I got at KTH, I got masters, but then I couldn't come back to India. I didn't get a scholarship. And that year it was 2020 June, so I could not travel back to India for loan. So I had to defer my master's seat. So I was like, what do I do? So I traveled all across Sweden that summer, and then I wrote cold emails for jobs, cold messages on LinkedIn. So the one that I already shared about Earthbank. So yeah, so that's how it is. I'm not the best person at advice on this because I don't really plan anything. It's all like, hey, if you tell me that, Smriti, this is a good project, I would be like, yes, I'll listen to you, and have a lot of discussions. And after that, I'll decide what to do. But I think it's important to be a little intuitive and, don't really say no to opportunities and try things out. I think that's all is important when it comes to, opportunities. About remote jobs, LinkedIn has helped me a lot. So initially, I used to approach a lot of people, like cold approaches in general, like this is what I'm interested in and blah blah blah. So I met a couple of people who actually were very keen on helping out. So after that, it was like through them, through their connections, a lot of things happened. And sometimes, even though I wasn't really looking for a job, I met people like just to, know them, or just so that they know me, and to build a connection more than just a job. So, so yeah, I made a lot of friends through that, and eventually I got a lot of work through them also, like more like freelancing or consulting or mentoring or something like that. So I think it's extremely important to make connections. Might not be that useful here, but Sweden's population is 10 million, as much as Bangalore, so we need connections there. So yeah. Right now there's a lot of opportunities in remote also. So right now it's like a lot of people approach directly on LinkedIn, so it's a little easier. Initially, like I had to approach them and do a lot of interviews. So yeah, it was all the same cold approach, never changed my way of approaching people until now. I still do that sometimes now on Instagram, because but Instagram is like basically the same approach, just a little more casual, like put an express and thanks. That's all.
Sure. We'd love to check out your YouTube channel if you could give us the link.
I'll
The
give
chat.
all my links. Wait.
Sure. And Bharat has a question. He says, is DSA really asked in data analyst roles?
Um,
Yeah, ma'am, answer that.
Okay, all right. You did mention that DSA is quite important, right? Yeah. So
if it's
Bharat.
like a technical company, then always like they value data structures a lot for a good reason. So
Yeah,
I mean,
only the first round only they give you like 2 or 4 coding questions. Only if you pass that, then you will get to the interview round. So
exactly.
that is significant.
I sent something. Okay, that's my LinkedIn, and that's my YouTube. There's just like not a lot of things there. I made a lot of videos, and then my boyfriend was like, "You look like a clown," so I deleted everything. So now there's just 2 videos there.
All right. So are there any remote internships at your organization currently?
I'm switching my organization.
Okay. All right. Okay. So
22nd April, I start a new job. So
Umang has one question. Umang, go ahead. Umang, go ahead.
I have a question. Like I was studying is very connected to the chemistry and physics and maths. So, what is the importance of neural network and like deep learning in the data science domain? Like they are connected.
I couldn't hear it properly. Could you please repeat that?
I think he's asking what's the importance of deep learning in data science. That's his question.
To learn their data. Importance
Um,
of neural network in data science.
So when it comes to like deep learning and data science domain, it's more like the type of applications you can work on. So if you're working with like more complex applications, also there are applications that eventually, like are a niche and more in demand, which also means more pay in general. So these algorithms, they often use deep learning, like machine learning algorithms aren't that sophisticated enough to work on it. Like if you are working maybe on a good healthcare project, or if you're working with stock market, or if you're working with climate change, climate modeling, soil modeling, or even like agricultural applications that I have personally worked on, everything like machine learning wasn't strong enough because of the amount of data you're dealing with, the amount of accuracy you would need. Because when it comes to healthcare, like in order to deploy it in US, for example, you need the model to be at least 90% accurate and not completely black box. So for a lot of like different reasons, due to the complexity of problems, it's like you have to essentially use deep learning and also understand it and explain it to people. That's often the more difficult part, right? Because deep learning algorithms have a huge black box that you need to deal with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my question is that like if you go through like Glassdoor and all of those other websites that track salaries of different organizations. I think for India, I think especially in roles like data analyst, it's quite low. So do you suppose that moving abroad is a good idea and taking up these jobs in countries other than India?
I mean, it depends. It depends on a lot of things. But yeah, like if making money is a goal for short term or for long term, then it definitely makes sense to move abroad, like very easily. It's the choice. Yeah. I mean, also not in Europe. You don't make money in Europe. Don't come to Sweden. You don't make money. US, there's a lot of money.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. But then you would have to invest a little, like I know someone right now, and he had like 4 years of experience in as a software engineer, and he did a 1 year course in MIS in Buffalo, New York. just as a gateway to go abroad. And he paid off all his debt, student debts in like 4 months. And now he's like doing pretty good. He was in Goldman Sachs. Now he switched to Facebook. So, so yeah, it's definitely a good choice. And I mean, you know, it's really nice. Yeah. Also, the difference in data science and data scientist and data analyst jobs in US is pretty significant. So, like a lot more significant when you compare it with India. So yeah, it's important to know as well.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, data analyst is like the new entry level job, right? Like,
Yeah, it usually is. I mean, it's also the tasks it's pretty, like
mundane.
not easy. It's not easy at all. It's just not that well paid and as it should be, and sometimes, yeah, but you know how it is, and you can't really say a lot of things about it. Yeah, it can be, yeah.
Okay, do we have any other questions? I think, Umang, do you want to say something? You have your hand up. Okay. Okay,
No,
so,
no, no, no. It was
all right, cool. So,
network issues.
I can definitely refer if needed. If you know who you want to be referred to, then I can refer.
sure, we'll all add you on LinkedIn, and also subscribe to Smriti's YouTube channel, everyone.
So please do.
And press the bell icon so that you're updated every
So
second.
when we are going to upload it on our YouTube channel, we will put all your links in the
Yes,
description if
yes.
you agree, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's okay, great. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, also if you guys are interested, I'm new to Instagram, so you can check out my travel. Like I'm traveling a lot. Next week I'm going to Udaipur, and then I'm going to Sweden, and then I'm going to Tallinn, and then I'm going to some other place. So yeah, I'll share that.
Maybe you can put
Right
the
now,
Instagram link in the chat as well,
yeah,
so we'll
because right
have
now
the
I'm like
access.
trying to grow my Instagram. It's been 12 days, and I want at least 2,000 followers in by the end of this month. So yeah, I'm very weird about that. If I'm using social media, I need to make money out of it. So
Yes, I think
So
Sundarbans
we'll
can definitely help with that. So
yeah.
we'll definitely post all the links. When we actually promote everyone. If somebody is doing music, we promote their music. We'll encourage everyone.
Yeah,
Sure. So we'll put
like
up all of your links.
yeah, it's like using social media as a full-time job. God, I'm addicted to Instagram already, but I'm bored also now of it. But I find a lot of people posting Northern Lights, so I'm happy.
So I have one question. Since you're traveling a lot, clearly you're working remotely, right?
I have been working remotely for a year now, almost due to COVID. But now I'll have to go and work there.
Okay. Okay. But then you are expected to come back. It was only like a temporary arrangement because of COVID.
In India?
I'm asking about your work situation.
Sorry?
I'm asking about your work situation. You're expected to go back to the desk.
Yeah, I have to. I mean, see, I got my visa, I don't know, a month back. And then I got my residence permit card is dispatched today because I changed jobs, so I had to change my visa. So I'll probably get it in like a week. That not exactly a week. I should get it by the end of this week, my RP card. But then I had tickets to Udaipur, so I'm delaying going back to Sweden. And then I told those people that I'll come to Sweden, I'll travel for 3 weeks, and then I'll start. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I have to go back because it's like I'm going to. So I'm quitting Earthbank, and I'll probably continue working with Earthbank as a brand ambassador because that's what they want, and I'll work more on the NFT blockchain side and like on tokens and stuff. And now at this new job, it's more like establishing an AI and data science lab from scratch. So I sort of have to be there. And I also want to do my master's this year, and I have applied, but I applied in the wrong category, I think. So I'll have to see. I mean, I applied for a full-time study and I can't do full-time study because I'll be working. So yeah, so I'll have to figure a lot of things out. It's weird. I didn't know what to do. So
Since we're on the topic, Kunal has a question about what your company does. So if you could like throw some light on that.
so yeah, basically, I would talk about Earthbank only. So Earthbank, we used to measure the amount of carbon that's been sequestered in a particular biodiversity, basically, using satellite images and stuff. So we had a partnership with the European Space Agency. And we used to get satellite images from them. And I used to work on image segmentation detection and some sort of computer vision techniques, basically like foreground mapping and all that. So a little bit of object detection, and then use convolutional neural networks to basically predict or monitor the number of trees that's there. Also used to help with forest cover, the depletion, deforestation rates, etc. And after that, um, use some non-spatial 3D data like height, girth of trees, etc. to see, combine them like the number and the height, girth, etc. to see how much carbon it's being sequestered in that particular area. So that's what I used to do at Earthbank. And then we used to sell these as carbon credits to, companies who have a lot of carbon emission in general. So what happened was this helped the small landowners with like small land areas who could not earlier offset their carbon and make money out of it. And we also used to connect them to buyers with like huge companies like pharmaceutical companies or oil gas companies, like who usually have a lot of carbon offsets. So yeah, but right now they're getting into blockchain NFT space also. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Okay, I think no more questions. So thank you so much, Smriti, for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for the excellent presentation you gave us and for answering all of our questions. And also very sorry for that mishap that
No
happened.
problem at all. It's completely okay.
And thank you so much for joining back again. Thank you so much.